is 6 o'clock. This is a regular scheduled meeting of the San Marcos School Board. It is October 21st at the San Marcos High School. Welcome. We are joined here with 5 trustees, and I believe the other 2 trustees will be joining us very shortly. Ms. Lopez is online, and Mr. Arredondo is to be here shortly. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Dr. Young up to the podium from Miller Middle School to introduce us to the student who will be leading us in the pledge.
All right, so good evening.
No, your microphone.
Go that way.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I know, but you're fixing to be right here. All right, so good evening, and thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting us. I have a wonderful 8th grade student here with me. This is Mr. Jacoby Urrutia. He is the, I don't even know where to start. He does everything. He is in VI.A, he is in all advanced classes, and he is our president of our student council. So Mom is here with him, coach, and then Dad is probably out coaching as well. So I'm going to tell you, he's just a good kid, and I'm not going to make him blush because he knows he's a really good kid. So he has left football practice early to come and lead us in a pledge, and then he's going back to Miller to practice basketball. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to him.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacoby Urrutia, and I'll be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas Pledge. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one, indivisible. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. You may be seated.
Thank you so much. Have a great school year.
I like that. Take
And
charge.
Jacoby is also, Jacoby's also part of our Superintendent Leadership Advisory Council. So he gives us a lot of good advice and also talks a lot sometimes. We want him to keep talking.
Well, that's good.
We do. He's a good one.
Excellent. Thank you so much. At this time, we would have public forum, but I don't believe we have anybody signed up, so we will move on to the superintendent's report.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, good evening. Congratulations to our choir students who recently completed in UIL. We had 31 and 23 advanced. I was looking kind of briefly. 9 go on to area. Yeah, 9 going on to area. We also, bye Jacoby. We'll see ya. We'll see you this week, actually. We also have some orchestra students that advance on. Benjamin Keller, who got first chair, and will be moving on, right, in his thing. So great things happening there. Just a lot of good stuff. Eleanor Smith is the Region 4 cross-country champion. And Connor McLaughlin also is advancing on to state. So great things happening there. Just overall, I just want to end the superintendent's report again by thanking the high school staff and students. You know, I wasn't at the last meeting, so it's been a while since our little incident, and then the staff there at the high school and the students above all really showed out how well they can do under pressure, what they think was pressure. So anytime we get a chance to thank them, we need to always thank them because that 99% really did what they were supposed to do. So, and that's it. I think we have an honoring of our principals here who are very much deserved, but I'll let the board president take care of that one.
I will, and before we do that, though, I do want to reiterate our thanks to all the staff and to the leadership and to the students at the high school. I was in the carpool line for the 2 hours while the situation was happening on campus, and so I saw firsthand the 80-plus first responders who were within minutes on our campus, plus the other 30 more that were there minutes later at the perimeter, and I appreciate everybody's professionalism. I have 2 kids who attend the high school, and I feel confident in their safety and security every day. So thank you all from the board for everything that you do. And with that, I will read a official proclamation, if I can find it. Oh, sorry.
Can we get the principals?
Yes, the principals come up, please.
We're volunteering you, so. Come on up. And Ms. Guajardo is not here because she's prepping for her defense, and so she was directed to remain at home, so she can become doctor soon.
Good. That's exciting. All right, so in honor of Principals Month, principals are tasked with a singularly noble task, the education of Texas's children. Our children will ultimately determine the future of Texas, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow can be shaped profoundly by a principal. The Texas education system depends upon the leadership of dedicated, capable principals. They cast a vision for their school and work tirelessly to realize it. Principals are not only a source of inspiration for their students, but they are also a leader for teachers and staff. They inspire their teachers to give the very best for their students and will give them their very best in return. An adept communicator, a firm disciplinarian, a savvy analyst, and a judicious policymaker, a good principal is crucial to student success. Each year, the month of October is set aside to honor principals and to commend them for the invaluable role they play in our educational system and our future. The Lone Star State owes a great debt of gratitude to these men and women who represent the best of Texas values. At this time, I encourage all Texans to educate themselves about the contributions principals have made to our great state. Principals' drive for excellence will ensure that our future will be better and brighter for all. Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez is still in.
Thank you all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have 2 more proclamations. It's a busy month. I would like to ask Trustee Kane to please read the National Bullying Prevention Month proclamation for us.
All right. Whereas bullying is the aggressive use of power targeting another person or group of people with repeated unwanted words or action, hurting them emotionally or physically, and whereas bullying occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, and online through technology, and whereas various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually, and whereas Texas children and adolescents are affected by bullying annually, and whereas targets of bullying are at increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school, and students who are repeatedly bullied often fear activities such as riding the bus, going to school, interacting online, and attending community activities, and whereas children who bully are at a greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, and whereas we encourage all residents to take time to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our communities safer for all children and adolescents, therefore, the San Marcos CISD Board of Trustees do hereby proclaim October 2024 as National Bullying Prevention Month.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask Trustee Cantu to please read the Youth Substance Use Prevention Month proclamation.
Youth Substance Use Prevention Month, whereas youth substance abuse is the use of alcohol, illegal drugs, or prescription or over-the-counter drugs for purposes other than those for which they were meant to be used, or in excessive amounts by individuals under the age of 18. Whereas substance abuse may lead to social, physical, emotional, and job-related problems. Whereas youth substance abuse has also been shown to lead to poor academic performance, psychological problems, memory problems, and the increased likelihood of developing a substance abuse disorder. Whereas research has concluded that early drug and alcohol abuse correlates with substance abuse problems later in life, and the most significant increases in destructive behavior appear to take place among the older teens and young adults. Whereas we encourage all residents to take time to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our communities safer for all children and adolescents. Whereas San Marcos CISD will continue working with our community partners to provide substance abuse awareness education and prevention to the youth of San Marcos. Therefore, the San Marcos CISD Board of Trustees do hereby proclaim November 2024 as Youth Substance Use Prevention Month.
Thank you very much. Not only do we have a terrific group of principals in San Marcos CISD, we also have a wonderful group of counselors and social emotional directors and and counselors who really provide incredible supports for our students that are absolutely necessary for their growth, well-being, and for their academic development. So we appreciate everything that you all do for that. Is that it with the superintendent's report?
That is, yes, ma'am.
Terrific. Then I think we'll move into the academic updates. And first up is the multilingual program update.
Good evening, President Halsley, Superintendent Cardona, and board members. My name is Monica Valadez. I am the Director of Elementary CNI and Multilingual Services, and I have here with me David Coronado, and he is our ESL coordinator and a little bit of everything. He is a great support for the department, and we really appreciate having him here this evening to help support the presentation. And we do this every October leading into November. So just an overview of the bilingual and ESL program types that we have. We have anywhere from a dual language immersion II.A. to a one-way, ESL content-based, and then ESL pull-out. Just a little bit about the II.A. The two represents two populations of students. So we have our Spanish-speaking student in the classroom and our English-speaking student in the classroom. That's what makes it two-way. So the one-way means that there's just one population of student, and that would just be our Spanish-speaking. Depending on the numbers, for example, over at Bonham, we have a lot more Spanish-speaking students. We don't have enough seats to offer to our English proficient students. So we have some classrooms that are just one way, and they're full with just our Spanish-speaking emerging bilinguals. And then we have a couple of classrooms that are two-way, and they have some of the parents that apply to the program that are English proficient. So that's the difference between the two. But really it is about not only the Spanish language, it's about adding that language, but it's also about academic achievement, because the cognitive load increases when the students are having to think in two languages. And then, of course, long-term, it also helps support the cognitive development and continued growth academically for students that have participated in dual language in primary grades. And then it has the social cultural component as well. So it's also about learning about heritage, cultural nuances and celebrations of the Spanish-speaking community. So it also has that, it's a three-pronged. ESL content-based. ESL content-based basically means that all of the core subject teachers for the student are ESL certified. So if the student's math teacher, RLA teacher, science teacher, and social studies teacher are ESL certified, then it's a content-based ESL program. And so we have, of course, a lot of our students some of our students who are not from Spanish-speaking households, they're from, say, Vietnamese-speaking households, Chinese, et cetera, that we don't have any programs to serve them in a two-way program, so they get ESL. And so if their teachers, all core teachers, are ESL certified, it's content-based. But if they're not, then it's pull-out. And pull-out means that their RLA teacher, which by state law needs to be certified, so at minimum, the RLA teacher that teaches them language has to be ESL certified. That's why we ask for ESL waivers when they're not. And so that's considered a pull-out program. So emerging bilingual enrollment numbers, and this is what we have right now. This is as of when we put this PowerPoint together, and we have 14 approximately 1,400 emerging bilingual students. This does not represent the 200-plus students that are also participating in the dual language program as English proficient. So the student population that we have under our purview increases to about 1,700 students when we add the English proficient students in here. So this is just our other language students that are emerging bilingual. So that's about 70% of the total student population, which has increased over time. It was, a couple of years ago, it was like 12%. So these are dual language enrollment numbers. The red signify the enrollment of our emerging bilingual from Spanish-speaking households, and then the blue signify the students who are English proficient and are participating in the program in that two-way model. So 638 approximately, again, these numbers may have adjusted here or there, are classified as EB, 191 are classified as non-EB, and really in our database, that's what they're seen as, EB and non-EB. It's not a preference that we have necessarily for the terms. 77% are EB and 23% are non-EB. We want to raise the 23% to more about 30%, right? So that would be a good, like, out of every 10 students in the dual language program, that we would have 3 of them be English proficient students. And then by program, so dual language has 638 students. ESL, pre-K to 12, that's 753. And then we do have denial. So there's 27 students whose parents, families have denied any language services. So they've denied either the dual language program and or the ESL program if that was offered, and so they don't receive any language services in our classrooms. So that's 45% dual language, 53 ESL, and then 2% denial.
Yeah, and so this is data based off of last year to this year, so we can see that in 2023-2024 school year, we had about 73 students in our ESL or ESOL section, so that's only for secondary, and those sections are offered both at San Marcos High School and Goodnight Middle School. And then, as you can see, we have an increase this year to 102 students. And then last year, we had about 152 students that were coded as immigrant, and this year we have 235. So we are definitely seeing an increase in our numbers, especially of students who are newcomers and immigrant. And that phrase is for students who are here for 3 or less years in the United States, and this is their first 3 years in United States schools. For professional development, we can see on the left-hand side, these are things that we've offered from the beginning of the school year as well as last year. So we are, putting a lot of information in front of our teachers, and we're really trying to support them as much as we can, because we know that these numbers are increasing. But our aims and our goals are that we want to increase academic discourse in all of our core subject areas. We want to make sure that we strengthen our awareness of our dual language sustainability. We also want to make sure that our district C&I staff are well aware of how to support our population of students, but then also we want to make sure we want to increase our ESL certifications, not only in RLA classes, but in every single class. So we want to make sure that teachers are supporting our students, and we know that with that certification that they have prepped to know that what they're doing is best for our students. And then for our state assessment, so these are our highlights. So in 2023, last school year, or 2 school years ago, we reclassified 3 students, and that number was quite low, but with some new II.A. guidance, we were able to reclassify 78 of our students. So what that means is that they are no longer technically qualified as emergent bilingual, they're now monitored. So we do monitor them for 2 years after their reclassification, and we just make sure that they're on top of their grades, their state assessments, or they're passing, and if at any time there is a concern, we can have a discussion about putting them back into our emergent bilingual program. Another thing is that beginning this school year, it's a new II.A. guidance, is that all of our students, all of our EBs, even our parent denials, can be serviced with instructional accommodations and testing accommodations. So this is something very different. Pretty much if you were a parent denial, you got no services. And the state recognized that that was a disservice to our students. And so no matter what a parent denial or EB, they are receiving accommodations. And all of our students, as of this year, have accommodations, so we have made sure of that. And then on the right-hand side, you can see Our biology passing rates have increased from 2023 to 2024. We went from a 68% passing rate to an 80% passing rate. I want to believe that in 2021, we were looking at about 40% passing rates for our emergent bilingual students. And then on the right-hand side, in 2023, we had about 36% of our EBs passing English 1 and English 2. Last year, we came to the board and we said we're going to make an increase of 5%. And so we exceeded that, and we now met 43% of our EBs are passing. And just a reminder that a lot of times for like biology, U.S. history, algebra, those concepts are very concrete and very image-based that we can connect them, and those are that support right there, that content-based language instruction is definitely going to support our students. While with English 1 and English 2, you have to have some background knowledge, some schema, and if you don't have that, you're already kind of like just falling behind a little bit. And so, but our English 1 and English 2 teachers are definitely working hard, and with our new aligned curriculum, we're definitely meeting the needs. And I know this 43% is low, but those are gains that we're slowly seeing it. And as a lot of people know, as the research says that to build the academic language, it does take a student 5 to 7 years. The social language can be built in 2 to 3 years, but social language doesn't pass a test. It's the academic language. And then for our state assessments, this is for TELPAS. So we can see here the growth of our students who grew 1 or more composite levels. So that's either growing from beginner to intermediate, intermediate to advanced, advanced to advanced high, or staying at advanced high. So we can see here that a little bit more than 1/3 of our EBs grew 1 or more levels. So those are great numbers because this is that academic language like we said. So every year a student may not grow in composite level, but they may grow in a proficiency level in a domain such as speaking or listening. And so we can also see here that a majority of our students are sitting in that intermediate and advanced level. So we do have about 11% in that advanced high and about 21% in that beginning. And this is for students in kinder through 12th grade. So a lot of that beginning number can also be for our kindergartners, our first graders, second graders who are still building that language acquisition. And then our waiver certifications and recruitment. So last school year, we asked for 3 bilingual exceptions, and then we asked for 23 ESL waivers. Of those numbers, 3 teachers earned their ESL certification and 6 are no longer with the district. For our certification route, we're working on content-based language instruction. So we do have an in-house ESL academy through Canvas that I created. And as of right now, we had about, from 2021 to now, about 40 teachers have gone through it and taken the actual exam, and we have a 97% passing rate. So we know it's on that first try, they're getting it. There are also other ways for teachers to get certified, some alternatives if they don't want to do the in-house ESL Academy. So that can be the online ESL and BTLPT preparation through II.A. We also provide some coaching cycles, and then are working with our ESL and dual language coach and district CIS to collaborate to make sure that we are getting our teachers certified. Our recruitment, we are working with HR, and so we are looking to outreach to bilingual education preparation programs, as well as a presentation to bilingual and ESL student teachers on program model and goals. So every year we visit the Texas State ESL program, bilingual program, and we talk to them about what we offer and how we want to bring them in, because they are going to be certified when they leave and graduate, as well as going to job fairs. For this school year, we are requesting 3 bilingual exceptions as well as 35 ESL waivers. And those are RLA teachers who are serving 1 or more emergent bilingual students in their classroom and are the teacher of record.
And then this is from, again, last year, family and parent engagement with the increase in our students who are coming in from other countries. And we have several of those families who also had interrupted, or at least their children had interrupted formal schooling. So we have several that may be in 3rd, 4th, 5th upper grades that didn't have the formal education. And so they're a lot lower and needing to the early literacy and then the early math literacy as well. So we focused a lot of our attention in terms of family and parent engagement on this group of students. And what we did was we coordinate family outings, right, so that the families could feel connected to San Marcos CISD, to San Marcos community, feel more at home, because a lot of them came, some of them came through detention centers, others came by themselves, the females with just their young children. And so we know that some of them experienced a lot of trauma coming here. So we focused a lot on really making them feel welcome. And so we had 4 different field trips, one to Texas State Meadows, Wonder World, Texas State University, and then we had ESL nights with the cooperation of our ESL teachers, both at Goodnight and at the high school. And so this was an opportunity for them to come as a family, right? So it wasn't just for the children, it was for the family unit.
And then our next steps for what we're working on this year is based on some reports that we're looking at. 3 through 8 tested subjects are our biggest concerns right now. So we are looking at supporting those STAR tested subjects. So that would include science for 5th and 8th grade, social studies or U.S. history for 8th grade, and then math and RLA for 3 through 8th grade. We are looking to continue to, we're building our ESL Academy is built. However, I'm tweaking it a little bit to make sure that our passing rates are higher, but then also now that we have 35 teachers who are going through it and who are expected to be certified this year, I want to make sure that they are supported and that they know that they can pass this test and that we will reimburse them for that past exam. And so that we want them to get it on that first try. And then we are looking into building our own in-house bilingual certification pathway. We're pulling some II.A. resources, also resources that we know, but for a bilingual teacher, the tests are a little bit more difficult. They have to take a BT-LPT, which is a language proficiency exam, and then they also have to take their generalist. So they do have one more exam on top of our other teachers, and that bilingual certification exam is not easy. And then the last one is that we are working continuously with content-based language instruction. This is the new move with II.A. We no longer are calling it sheltered instruction or PSYOP. It is now content-based language instruction because with the new ELPs coming out in the next 2 school years, they are based on subject area and no longer this umbrella term for just every EB that they all kind of get the same support. It's different in each academic setting. And so we're working on content-based language instruction as our new focus this year. That's it, yeah.
Any questions?
I have a
Ms.
question.
Kane?
I was just wondering, because we're going to be talking about the teacher incentive allotment, do you have any read on how having that in place would affect our ability to hire and retain teachers for the multilingual programs?
I think it would help. I think it will help. I know that in the last couple of years, they had the increase in their stipend, so that helped retain a lot of teachers that were at that point considering leaving San Marcos because other districts, nearby districts, were paying the $2,000 extra, $2,500 extra. And so the fact that the board approved the $6,000 for them, we maintain a lot of them that still are with us today. And I think, yes, the II.A. will be super beneficial, but I think one of the things that often also contributes to dual language, bilingual certified staff staying is that a belief in a program, right? So a lot of our surrounding neighbors, they go back to transitional programming that is more deficit. For whatever reasons, they have their own reasons, right? And it could be staffing as well. But I think if we keep our dual language program strong and continue to commit to it, that's what bilingual certified teachers want to do. They want to be bilingual teachers in proactive programs.
I have one student in dual language, and I cannot speak more highly of her teachers, who speak very highly of y'all. So thank you very much for your work.
I have a question. A student that enters the program in junior high, how are we supporting them in high school so that they can be successful with their 5-star tests that they have to take?
So
At the high school level.
if they're coming in with no English, is I assume is what you're asking.
Yes.
It kind of all depends, right? So there are differences among even the students that enroll in our program as newcomer students at middle school. Some of them that have formal education and they come on grade level from their countries, they do very well learning the English language. And they are on track or sometimes advanced in their academics. The concerns for us are those who come with no formal education or limited formal education, right? And then on top of that, they have the barrier of not speaking English. We do have, and we shifted our newcomers from Miller Middle School, which always were 2 or 3 per year. We shifted them over to Goodnight, so we have a newcomer class over at Goodnight that is served by a specific teacher that helps newcomers establish in their school community. So she has probably about 35 students.
So they have 3 sections now. We had to open up a 3rd section. The first 2 are filled to the brim, so we're at about 25 students in each class, and then we're building up that 3rd section as well. But then at Goodnight as well, there is push and support. So students are getting push and support from our Spanish teachers, some IAs, and from the ESL teacher. There's about 5 people doing push in, which is a big shift, and we're seeing that support, and teachers are actually happy with that support, and they're appreciative of it. And then at the high school as well, we do offer push-in support as well. So we have 2 IAs and then 2 ESL teachers that have a section for push-in.
Because I had looked at the scores and I saw how well a lot of our students do in the math, because math translates. I mean, you don't have to know English to do well in math, but I know that that would be difficult to pass the English 1 and English 2 for their graduation requirement.
You know, we've had good results from our ESOL 1, ESOL 2 classes. Again, it's a dedicated teacher that specifically works with our newcomer students to fast track them because they have to take the same test as anybody else, right? And so fast track them to get them to understand enough content so that they're able to meet the requirements. We have a lot of newcomers that come in 9th grade and they do relatively well and they graduate, right? Even as rigorous as it is to capture all of their EOCs coming into a country new and not knowing English, they manage to do it. And so there is that drive. And so that's why that family engagement is really important, is really helping parents understand the system here, understand the requirements here, and then help support them. And so Ms. Ibarra here, who is the ESL teacher, she does a wonderful job of making sure that the parents feel welcome, the families feel welcome, and understand the rigor of it to help support their students. And we're building that up. I'm not taking credit for it. Goodnight's building that up at Goodnight for their newcomers, who again are increasing in numbers.
Thank you.
I think that you've done a terrific job building the program in a really holistic way that takes into account every aspect that affects the child and the family, and I really appreciate that. I have one question about the preschool program. I was surprised, I guess, that we have. I thought I understood more one-way classes than two-way classes at Bonham. Is that new? Because I thought when we first started the program that there was a concern that we would not have enough Spanish-speaking students to have a real dual language program at that young level. So that doesn't seem to have met out as the
No, so we had a huge dip after COVID, but we've rebounded. And so we have 5 dual language classrooms at Pre-K Bonham, and they fill up quickly with emerging bilingual Spanish-speaking students. And so we only have a few spaces left for our English proficient students, and this year we accepted 12. And instead of divvying the 12 up amongst the 5 classrooms, we dedicate them into 2 classrooms so that we have a better ratio of English speakers to Spanish speakers.
That's interesting. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That sun's right in my eye, and it really hurts my artificial lens that they put in my eye. I need to have some.
Dr. Sanders?
Good evening, President Halsey, Board Trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Cardona. Tonight, we will be delivering our This evening, we will be delivering to you all results from the first district common assessment, but I would like to set the stage for this presentation by first just talking about the different ways that we use data across the district. We know that our teachers are the backbone of what happens in our schools. They're the ones who are with our students each and every day. So if you notice there, the teachers across our district, the purpose for how they use the data really is about informing instruction. So they're going to take the results that come with how students perform, and they're going to adjust their instruction to ensure if there are particular students who need intervention, they're going to receive that. If there are students who need acceleration and or enrichment, they're also going to receive that. So they go about looking at their data student by student. Whereas when you see campus administrators are tasked with the role of looking across the school. If you think about, we have emphasized professional learning communities now for a couple years here, and one of the things that we know our administrators are really good at is looking at the data across the grade level. For example, let's say that you have a fourth grade in a school. You're going to look at each and every one of your teachers, and you may notice that teacher A, their students are performing 15, 20 points higher than teacher B. So as a campus administrator, the questions that you're asking during those professional learning community meetings are, what is happening in teacher A's classroom that is so different from teacher B? And more importantly, just asking the question is really getting our teachers who are the experts in that area to be able to model for their colleagues, this is exactly how I'm teaching this versus teaching it in a different way. So that's how the administrator is looking at it. They're no longer drilling down student by student, but they're looking across trends across the entire school where they're able then to determine what are the needs for professional development that must happen on the campus. If we look at the district administrators, that's where we are looking at the needs of all of the schools. So we're looking across the entire system. One important note as we're thinking about that, Ms. Nash has shared with us many times how our schools are not to be compared with each other because of the unique makeup. However, we do look at trend data because if we notice across the entire system, let's say our two middle schools, that we're having a particular area of struggle with a standard in both middle schools, that lets us know as a district what professional development we need to make sure that our teachers are getting and how we go about allocating resources to ensure that happens, whether it's through a district curriculum instructional specialist. How can we better support that? If a campus is doing exceptionally well and another campus may be struggling just a little bit, how can we shift resources around to make sure that we're giving the support where it's absolutely necessary? And then last but certainly not least are you all as our Board of Trustees, and it's really about the long-term setting the goals and the accountability piece and asking the important questions as we come forward to you to present items and request things through our budgeting process each and every year. As you approve that, making sure that we're able to come forward and be transparent in terms of what we're seeing in our classrooms and the data that we're seeing as you ask us those questions to ensure that the money and the different funds and resources that we're allocating for our schools and classrooms are being used accordingly. So I just wanted to set the stage for the expectations for how we use the data by looking at all the different stakeholders. Of course, I don't have up here students, but our students do a terrific job of tracking their data. We're very intentional on goal setting in our classrooms and making sure that students, if you ask our students, they can tell you exactly where they are on any given assessment and then what the expectation is moving forward. So I'm going to now turn the presentation over to the exciting part that you're, I'm sure, eager to hear and what the results look like from our first district common assessment. So Mr. Navarez.
don't know what, you go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Cardona. James Nevares, Executive Director of Academic Services, and I'm joined by our curriculum directors, Ms. Lacey Oda Mariaski and Dr. Monica Valadez. So, aligned to what Dr. Sanders said, campuses presented over the last couple of months, identifying or showing the identification of the needs that they've come to through their data discussions at their campuses. They presented to the board. One of the major areas of priority was looking at the OHI data and ensuring that the campuses are putting forth effort to be goal-focused. We have also wanted to make sure that we're setting the tone for that the district's emphasis, or the Office of Academics' emphasis on being goal-focused. During our Instructional Leadership Symposium in June, we launched the following student performance targets for all district common assessments. That was to ensure that we were hitting 80% approaches, 50% meets, and 30% masters. In addition to that, when we launched our instructional framework, a major component of that was assessment and ensuring that we had a more robust assessment posture this year. That's to ensure that we're building a common language across all campuses and ensuring that we're reviewing data the same way. So if I can connect the subpopulation focus to the presentation that we just saw, all of the supports and effort that goes into ensuring that our emergent bilinguals are successful, we want to make sure that those conversations are happening across all data components that we have, triangulated data for emerging bilinguals, the same for special education students, economically disadvantaged and gifted and talented. Every quarter, our principals and our campuses fill out our key performance indicator scorecard, which contains information from board goals or strategic planning goals, behavior, attendance, and then our student performance data based on district common assessments. So on October 11th, the principals presented their campus scorecards to their campuses, and then teachers engaged in a half-long day data dig where they disaggregated data. They had discussions around how we can better support our emerging bilinguals, how can we better support special education. So we're starting to see that we're living into the focus of being goal-focused. The first category of data that we're going to discuss tonight will be attendance data, and then I'll turn it over to the curriculum instruction directors to go over our district common assessments. So we've broken down the data into 3 different graphs, if you will. On the far left side is just an average of all campuses for specific grade bands. So at all elementary campuses, we have an attendance rate of 95.7%, middle school is 95.5%, and then the high school and Phoenix, 93.3%. And this aligns to the presentations that the campuses did over the course of the last couple of months. In the top right, we broke the data down by campus, so you can see continuity in attendance levels for each of those campuses. And in the bottom right, the data is broken down by month, where August, I think, was 1 percentage point higher than September and October, but we're steadfast in that 95% area for both September and October.
That's the wrong button, sorry. I thought I pressed, but apparently not. Okay, so these are, we wanted to present the data similar to what II.A. does, which they do all testers in a grade band, right? And II.A. does 3rd through 8th, but we wanted to break it down by elementary and middle school and separate it from secondary. So we averaged out 3rd through 5th grade testers, grade levels for RLA. And overall, we have, of course, what you see and you've seen in your board book, 34%, 20%, and 7%, and then broken down by our subpopulations that Mr. Nevares just mentioned. One of the important things that we also looked into when we looked at the data was comparing our DCA fall 2023 to our DCA fall 2024. because what the specialists that create these assessments want to do is want to make sure that the rigor maintains, right? So that from DCA 1 to DCA 1 in 2 different fall semesters, that the rigor maintains so that we can see if our students are growing in their ability and capacity to demonstrate their learning over time. And so we calculated those numbers, and last year at the same time, that average was 24% in approaches. So we grew 10 percentage points from DCA 1 fall 2023 to DCA 1 fall 2024, which is significant. We grew 7% in the meets category, and then we grew 2% in the masters category. And that held true for most of the subpopulations as well, with the exception of a couple of spots, but that also held for the subpopulations, including special education, where they grew from DCA fall to DCA fall. This is for math, 57% approaches, 44% meets, masters 22%. We did the same thing comparing DCA 1 fall 2023 to 2024, and saw even greater growth. And again, the rigor is on point, right? And so for math, we have 17, it shows a 17% increase from last year's DCA 1 in approaches, 21% increase in meets, and a 17% increase in masters. So again, this is highly significant. All of our subpopulations also showed the same thing. So sometimes it's kind of hit and miss. You can't really see any patterns, but we definitely saw a pattern in this from the fall of last year to the fall of this year. The students' scores went up when averaged, and that held true for most of the subpopulations as well in each of the areas, approaches, meets, and masters.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? This is great news. Let me make sure, though, that I understand that we are comparing students who were in 3rd grade last year to students who are in 3rd grade this year, not students who were in 3rd grade last year who are in 4th grade this year.
Yeah, we're just averaging the grade band.
The grade bands,
right?
okay.
So they're not comparative among cohorts, it's just the grade band.
Thank you.
Shifting to secondary data here. Notice 50% meets, that's one of our goals, so we were very excited about that at 8th grade, on our way to 80, 50, 30. These scores are increased from last year, but specifically our SPED and EB students more than doubled from last year at the meets and masters. So that 50 and 23 that you're seeing, the 11 and 4 for SPED, and the 26 and 9 for EB, that's more than double from last year. So our 8th grade teachers were pretty pumped about that subpop data.
Very good.
In English 1, again, growth from last year. Our EB students grew over 10 percentage points across the board. And as far as all testers, that top row there is an increase from last year by anywhere from 3 to 15 points.
Can I ask
Yes.
a quick question? So the economic disadvantage, that can also include people in the other groups also, right? Okay, so those are, some of the numbers are cross?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all, English 2 had big growth. Again, we meet our 50 goal at the meets. Remember, that's on grade level, right? So sometimes we get a little lost in approaches. We're super pumped to see that we met our 50 goal at meets. Again, in English 2, our EB students more than doubled across all categories, and our students receiving special education service almost in every category at approaches and meets more than doubled from this time last year. So big growth there, and we attribute that to a really an emphasis on our writing in the first 9 weeks, particularly around that extended constructed response. We've embedded some more practice in the first 9 weeks, and we're seeing some progress from there. And then our high school staff's been incredible about staying goal focused and really keeping the teachers, eyes on the prize, and I think we're seeing some results. Algebra, now remember this would be at middle school and some at the high school. The growth continues, the trend of growth continues at our approaches. At 73 is a 16% increase from last year. And again, with our SPED and EB population at approaches, Those are over 20 points increase from last year for those two populations in algebra. So exciting. Okay, biology. This is the only area where we saw a little bit of backstep by just 4 to 8 points, and we did expect this. We have new science TEKs this year, and so this is our first test to kind of see those in action, and we also made sure that our assessment had those technology enhanced items. So kind of new TEKs coupled with those more rigorous questioning patterns. So we weren't surprised to maybe see a couple steps forward, back, but we should see forward progress as we continue to practice. And I'm sure you notice, even despite going backwards a couple points, 84, 56, we met that 80-50 goal. And finally, U.S. history, 80, 50, 30, check, 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 meet the goals. There's some growth here from last year, 20 points across the board from last year growth. So again, our U.S. history team has done a really phenomenal job. They've had some changes in some curriculum and staffing, and they've really come together. They have a wonderful assistant principal supporting them and a new instructional coach, and they're gelling, and we're seeing some results there.
Awesome.
So I don't necessarily know that these are takeaways as much as what we want to continue to do. And so we came into last year and then again in this year is really structuring out the instructional framework, right? What we were going to commit to in our classrooms to improve core instruction. So the focus has always been in the last couple of years is on grade level and rigorous and helping the students meet that expectation, right? Providing them the intervention as necessary, but really maintaining for core instruction, it has to be on level and it has to be rigorous. And so we broke out the instructional framework to include the planning, the instruction, the assessment, and the reflection. So this is a part of what we do as well with our teams, right? The specialists that create the assessments is make sure that, one, you get the feedback from the campuses around the quality of the assessment, but maintain the rigor. So in DCA 2, that's going to be taken at the beginning of December, is making sure those assessments are rigorous. They're covering the standards that the teachers are expected to teach, that they're following the scope, right? And so we have those conversations with our campus coaches, our campus principals, who are awesome in getting into classrooms and seeing our core instruction and providing effective feedback back to our teachers so that we grow and we continue to focus on core instruction. And I know that Ms. Matejowski would say the same thing for secondary. It's about core. It's about the rigor and the grade level commitment.
Thank you. Great.
Good job.
Any questions?
Good job.
Thanks, y'all. Great job. Great news. Now we're moving into human resources.
Okay, there it is. All right, good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Cardona, President Halsey. My name is Beth Cantu. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition. As part of our recruitment and retention efforts, we are beginning the 3-year application process of the Teacher Incentive Allotment, or II.A. This presentation will take you through a brief overview of II.A in order to understand the implementation requirement. So why II.A? II.A will support our teacher recruitment and retention efforts through creating a system to designate highly effective teachers to receive additional pay and increase their overall salary. Here's a map of our surrounding districts who have started the II.A application process or have approved II.A applications. Green indicates approved, yellow indicates in the process. So as you can see, we are surrounded by several districts that are participating in the process. TIA differs from past initiatives in the following ways. So adequate and sustainable funding, inter-rater reliability, and multi-measure evaluations. It is available for all teachers. It encourages professional collaboration and increases recruitment and retention rates. So how it works, there are 3 designations, which include Recognize, Exemplary, and Master. Teachers receive these designations through achieving set scores on both T-tests, our teacher evaluation system, and a student growth measure. Here are the overall salary increases a teacher can receive if they receive a designation. The allotment value of each designation is based on student population and will vary from campus to campus. But you can see Recognize is an additional $3,000 to $9,000, Exemplary $6,000 to $18,000, and Master $12,000 to $32,000. This breaks it down to the average campus allotments for San Marcos. So Recognize is around $5,000, almost $6,000, Exemplary $11,000, and Master $21,000. This slide illustrates the application timeline. The application timeline is a 3-year process with specific steps that are required by TEA to be fully approved. We are currently working with Region 13 to support and guide us through year 1. So year 1 is that system development, stakeholder engagement, which is very important. The system application, which it actually will not post until January. They changed that, and then the application is due April 15th. Year 2 is the data capture year, and also a teacher buy-in survey that is required. And then year 3 is data submission. You get notified if your system is approved. You then can expand your system and make modifications, and then teachers are paid out. And then post-approval, you can continue to expand your system. That is what most districts have done. They've started small just to get their feet wet and their feet under them. And then as they progressed, they added more and more teacher designations. This slide illustrates our stakeholder engagement plan. So we have done presentations to our cabinet team, principals, school board, the HR steering committee, and teachers will be next. The HR steering committee was created, and we held our first meeting in September, and we do plan on meeting monthly. We will use surveys. We have our webpage on the internal and public-facing websites to provide information on TIA and how that will look in San Marcos. Our system development this year will include eligible teaching assignments, teacher performance and designation criteria, which includes T-tests and the student growth measure, and I have percent to be determined. That means how much will T-tests weigh, and then how much will the student growth measure weigh. An example would be like 60-40%, 50-50, 40-60. So that's what we would also get feedback on, as well as the TIA spending plan, which is required to be approved by the school board. This includes additional information, of course, the TEA website. There is an FAQ that I have created that's on our internal website. And then we have the external TIA website that are also posted. So that is the conclusion of my presentation. What questions do you have?
Mr. Shanks?
So the TIA is funded by the state, correct? So when you talked about changes and stuff, can the San Marcos School District add funds to that, or is it restricted to what the state gives or allocates?
My understanding is what the state is allotting for the school district based on the student needs.
And so my second question, somebody else.
Go ahead.
The designations for, those are one-time designations, so one time
And then you receive the funding for 5 years.
for 5 years, and then at the end of that 5 years, do you go back and can you get it again, or is it just done?
I will look into that. I am not sure.
I'm just curious if it was just a one,
Yeah.
you know, because the goal would be to incentivize our good
Right.
teachers to continue to be good teachers. And we don't want to say, hey, here's your one-time fund, and now you no longer can, you don't need to improve, you can just kick back and.
My guess that is
The
where
cocktail.
the expansion comes from and the
Okay.
modifications in which then a teacher, maybe could switch to a different subject area and, get it in that area. So I will look into that though.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time.
Yeah,
3
we
years,
do,
right?
we do, have 3 years.
I share
I'm excited.
Mr. Shank's concern about, it's really hard to receive a $20,000 pay increase and then suddenly not have that pay increase any longer. That doesn't seem very sustainable. So I'd like to know about that, but I just want to make sure a couple other things. So this year we are in a planning process. Next year, we pull our data together, we determine who would be eligible, who wants in, et cetera, and then they would qualify that third year and get paid at the end of the third year, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then do you understand, or do we need to look into more about how that determination of what the pay increases are? That seems very unclear to me. Is that a magic formula that we don't have any access to?
No, there's access to it and I can share that formula with you. It is included in the the guidebook, but it's pretty much a multiplication. You have your base allotment plus your multiplier rate times your average campus student point value, and that equals your allotment per designated teacher. So it's, a complicated.
But are our students worth more or less than students in other districts?
It depends on their economically disadvantaged status. So,
Okay.
yes.
And that will be made all very clear and transparent to teachers who are interested in participating, I hope.
Yes.
Okay. Now, my last question is, when this was brought out by the state, it was touted as a way for teachers to make 6 figures. There's nothing that I've seen here that shows me that teachers are going to make 6 figures. Can you show me how that works?
I would think possibly if a teacher received several stipends or, were at a
But can a third grade teacher qualify like in 3 different areas and stack those stipends?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about
If we
that.
can
I
look
don't.
into that and see
Yeah.
if there is a way, again, I want to be really clear and transparent with our staff about, I'm for trying new things and
Yeah.
trying this, and if it works, great, but I don't want to make promises to people that we can't deliver on because the system is not actually set up that way.
My understanding is they would only get one designation. However, depending on their years of service, right? If they 15-year teacher, 20-year teacher, they may be on maybe the 70,000 salary plus. Some districts do get an extra 20+ thousand, and so that could take them above. Plus their stipends, they could be making closer to 6 figures.
Well, if we could maybe model a couple of those, I think that would be helpful for me to understand, my colleagues, and as well as teachers to understand that, because that, is the idea, right? That teachers would be on track to make 6 figures. And if that is the case, we need to see how that would actually track. And if it's not the case, we just need to be honest about that.
We also have to, as a district, be rated, right? We can't be not an unrated district to
Right.
proceed with this.
So we do have to submit our data to show student growth to Texas Tech is a university that looks at our T-test data, and it looks at depending on which screener we want to use, they'll look at our screener, so it could be iReady, those different scores, and to see if our students are growing. So we would have to submit all of that information in April. But as we present, we can give teachers, teacher A, if they're on this track, could be making this their 15-year teacher plus this stipend for II.A. Just give some real-life examples so teachers can see that.
In terms of the district needing to be rated, are there caveats for, say, if a particular campus is not doing well, but a teacher inside that campus is doing well? Can that teacher qualify? It's district ratings. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I'm optimistic that it'll, be an incentive and a benefit to our staff. I think we just need to make sure that we understand it and that we're real clear about it, so.
Absolutely. Okay,
We do
thank you.
have some former teachers that are in neighboring districts who are getting it. It is significant what
That's
they're
great.
getting. they come back and we recruit them back, we don't have to pay it, so that's a good thing.
Right, that money from the state will follow them, but it's still based on then the student population they're serving, so it might change some. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we need a break or should we keep going?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Next up is, Ms. Lopez, are you still with us? Terrific.
Yay.
Okay, let's move into the approval of the consent agenda items. First of all, the approval of the minutes for the regular scheduled board meeting on September 16th and the special board meeting on October 7th. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the September 16th meeting and the October 7th meeting.
Can we pull those into two separate motions,
Oh,
please?
that's right, you weren't here.
Yes, we'll take that, the first one is the September.
Let's take the September 16th
Okay.
meeting first.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand.
My hand is up.
Thank you. You're abstaining, blah, blah, blah. Abstaining, Ms. Kane, thank you. All right, and then this motion made by Ms. Cantu, seconded by Mr. Shanks for the special board meeting on October 7th. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Hand is up.
And that is 6-0. Then the consent, I think we can take the other three all together unless anybody would like to pull them out.
I had some comments on the campus improvement plans, so I'd rather take that one separately.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the campus improvement plans?
I move.
So moved by Ms. Kane, seconded by Mr. Shanks. Questions?
Last year, I know we just approved them without going over them, and I know that we probably don't have the time to go over each campus improvement plan. And I had spoken to, where did Terrence go? About having them be more consistent. Some talk about attendance, some don't talk about attendance. I think that maybe we need not necessarily a template, but an outline so that we have the same responses from the different schools.
They have a template.
They have a template?
The nuances are why they're individual campus plans. But they do have a template. We use a standardized template for them.
Because, and I had questions, like on the high school, there was a comment about that they were going to collaborate with Miller, but they didn't say they were collaborating with Goodnight. And so I think that when we submit our campus improvement plans for the board to approve, that there should be a little bit of consistency in terms of the format. Whatever they report has got to be according to their own school. But that's the comment I had last year, and I still have that concern. So I just wanted to give my opinion on it.
I think they're certainly more consistent than they were, but I agree with Ms. Cantu that it seems like they could be just even, I think in the readability of them, I think they're clearer this year and more consistent, but I think that there's still a little bit more room for improvement. I'm thinking, like, I thought that the Mendez had a chart that showed me exactly how many students, and I found that really helpful. And I thought that sort of table on every campus would be helpful. I did think that they were very consistent with the presentations that were made, which were super on point and very helpful. So.
Because last year's, and I agree that they're improved from last year, because I know last year that someone would put, or some of the schools put, that they wanted to improve 4%. And 4% is not going to get you to the next letter grade if you're only improving such a small percentage. So these were better than they were last year. But I guess because of the presentations, everyone was saying 95%, 95%, 95%, but I didn't see it consistent in their campus improvement plans. That's it.
Any other questions? All in favor of accepting the campus improvement plans as presented, please raise your hand. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Let's just keep going one by one. Consider the resolution amending authorized representative for tax pool and First Public Lone Star. Ms. Garcia, can you just give us a quick?
So these are our pool accounts, and we're just removing Mr. Doyle and adding Mr. Alvarez.
I move we make those amendments.
A second.
Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you.
Henry.
Thank you. And consider approval of budget amendments.
And there's two. One is just a correction from last month's board amendment for the high-cost grant, just the way that it has to be recorded in the books. And then the second is just a transfer from function to function at the high school. Ms. Twyla would like to move some funds around. She wasn't here when we approved the budget, so she's just moving some funds around.
Any questions?
We're moving money from instructional.
She's moving money out of instruction. She's moving some to security. She needed additional money in security, some in admin in 23, and then she wants to move some to professional development.
And that was coming out of our fund balance, that 159?
No, that's all budgeted money already.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the 159 is the high cost, right? Is that the money? Okay, that's the First Amendment from the high cost. That is coming out of fund balance because those are expenses that were incurred in last year. And the way that we do our books, you have to have your revenue and your expenses match in the same year. So we're just putting that actually revenue was expensed or recognized in 23, 24, but we need to put it on our books this year so that they can use it to pay cost for this year. So you have to put it in as reducing your fund balance because it was showed as an increase in your fund balance at the end of 23, 24. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
As much as it can.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
So made by Ms. Kane,
I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Lopez. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank
Henry.
you. Moving into items for action. The consideration of naming a committee to name specific area within the new central administration building. This is something that has come up because of the opening of the new central office. We did previously, at the September meeting, agree to carry over the name of the old central office, honoring Mr. Felipe Reina in that capacity, and it was requested that we consider naming other areas of that building. We have looked at the policies, those have been distributed in terms of following the precedent that we set up when we named Rodriguez Elementary School. I would like to propose, because this process is at the discretion of the board, that we handle this one slightly differently. And I would like to propose that because this is an administration building and a building for the Board of Trustees and a building for the general public, I would like to ask Trustees Kane and Trustees Lopez if they would be the designees of the chair and co-chair of the committee. And then we would, I would abstain from making any other appointments to the committee, but ask my colleagues to each appoint a person from the administration or from the public or whomever it is that you see a fit, and let then those two trustees guide us through that process and come back to the board with a recommendation. I just think because of the use of the building that it seems appropriate to me that we have trustees involved in that. So.
I like your idea, and I have my name that I asked someone from the community to be on it.
Okay. So Ms. Lopez and Ms. Kane, will you accept that appointment?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And I'm sure that administration will help you. I'm looking at Mr. Fernandez, will help you set up and organize that series of meetings. I also think that we should do this thoughtfully, and so I don't want to put a hard timeline. I don't think we need to have it done by the opening of the building. I think we'll have enough to celebrate and to do at the opening, so I think that we have, you know, through the spring really to consider it. We don't need to drag it out indefinitely, but we don't need to feel like, you do not need to feel rushed, I don't think, to have it done by January.
But I thought we were to bring names for this meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
I just wanted to talk through that process and make sure that you guys are all okay with that. Do we do it that way?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Then, I don't know if we want to name people on the dais or if we just want to
Submit names.
submit them.
I'm ready to
Okay.
submit names. Do you have yours?
I don't want to call them out
Okay.
here in case they say no. I think that would be
So
better to.
I've asked mine, and mine said yes.
I didn't
Okay.
ask yet.
So I'd like to make a motion that we manage the process for naming the additional buildings as the way that I've just described. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Any other questions? If not, then I think then if you will email me the name of your designee following this meeting, and then I will make sure that the superintendent has them, and we'll move on from there. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you all. Okay, terrific. Academics, we need to consider approval of a state waiver for the low attendance for San Marcos High School on Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. What was the attendance that day?
The next day it was 78.96 or something to that effect.
I make the motion that we submit the state waiver for low attendance on September 25th.
Second, made by Ms. Kane. Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? 6-0, thank you. I think this just reinforces why social media and, I mean, this even goes beyond social media. This was just such a nefarious criminal act that it's unbelievable. Human Resources. First, thanks to Ms. Munoz for providing the board a very handy video overview of the items that we're considering tonight. I know it really helped me understand the policies better, so thank you for that.
Thank you for watching. I took it 10 times.
It was terrific.
Got it.
I really appreciated it.
I liked it too.
Yay. So in front of you, you will have the class size waivers. We do have 5 total classrooms that are above 22-1. And so I have in your board book specified which campus, which classroom, and they are either 23 students instead of 22, or there's I believe 1 over 24, or at 24. So your waiver and your action item will be to approve this class size waiver for all 5 classrooms for us to submit to TEA.
I'll make that motion that we approve the class size waiver as submitted by Human Resources. Second.
Seconded by Ms. Villalpando. Sorry, could you just go, I'm just having a hard time looking at this table, so can you just say again
table-
how many classes it is exactly that we are?
It is 5 classrooms. You have, in red on your table, you'll see exactly what
I see now.
classroom.
Okay.
And then because they are not at 22, that is why we are asking for a class size waiver. They're either over by 1 student or 2 students.
Did we have a second yet?
Yes. Ms. Villalpando seconded. Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, President Halsey. I just had a quick question for staff, and I apologize, just walking in this evening, but I appeared just for this vote. Is there any way to put a threshold that if a classroom goes 3 or 4 over, it stops increasing in size? Or can you explain kind of that frequency or what happens at that point? Does this waiver allow for a classroom of, 28, 29, or what does that look like?
So we would not be able to go over 25 K through 4. However, as new students are coming into campuses and the campus does see that they're over, they are shifting into other classrooms that maybe are at 22 instead of the 24. So those are just really working with that registrar to make sure the campus principal knows, okay, that classroom's already at 23. I'm going to not assign a new student to that classroom. I'm following up every week, so looking at class counts just to make sure that we are putting students in classrooms that are not at capacity. If there's another classroom that's at 22, then that would be the class that the new student should go into. So just closely monitoring and working with campus principals.
Ms. Halsey?
Mr. Redondo?
Thank you. I just have one more follow-up. You said that you would be looking at that weekly. Is there a way that the board can receive that information as well on a weekly basis?
Yes, we can share our reports. They will not have teacher names, but like teacher A, B, C, D.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much.
I just have one more question. So I don't remember that we've done waivers in a while.
It's been about 6 years.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't had any waivers for a while, which is great. I also understand that we are in a, like most districts in Texas, really strapped financially, so it's difficult to add teachers in, and which would significantly decrease the class sizes, which would be optimal, but nearly impossible. So I understand that these are necessary constraints. But I'm wondering, and I have no intention of micromanaging how this is done, but I'm just asking because I see like one classroom, for instance, in the same grade has 23 students, but another classroom has 16 or 18. So I'm assuming that there are exceptional reasons for that in terms of the class makeup or the experience of the teacher, and that principals are working cooperatively with their teachers to ensure that the one or two extra students that a teacher might be taking on, that teacher feels confident that that's all right, right?
Some are dual language classrooms where, maybe there's only 2 dual language classrooms, and then the other grade levels are general ed teachers, and so that might be the reason that there's not as many students in that grade level for general ed education. There are also certain conversations I've had with principals where they've chosen, because the teacher does want, maybe a little bit more class size and would like to have students who maybe have a co-teacher in their classroom, and has said, I'm okay, there's a co-teacher in here if my class sizes are a little bit higher. So just really understanding the why and asking principals, why do you have it staffed that way?
Terrific. I'm mostly asking that question because I trusted that you were already doing it. I just want to be clear that, this is not ideal, of course, but I trust y'all to handle a non-ideal situation as ideally as possible. So, any other questions? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Welcome, Mr. Arredondo. Back to the dais. Our next item for action is the consideration and approval of the policy adoption FOC local and EIA local. Ms. Munoz.
So in our video that you got, it has a few different policies that are just for you to review as an annual exercise that we're looking at. However, EIA local and the FOC, those are policies that we would like you to review based on what you got via email, because administration is asking to make changes. And so you'll see in the EIA there is blue, there's red, and the blue signifies the addition, the red is omitting those words. In collaboration with our academics team and our TASB policy, that EIA policy is in front of you, along with the other policy that you received for expulsions. We are mirroring one of our neighbors, Hayes CISD, as we both do not have a juvenile detention center in Hayes County. This is their process for establishing expulsions, should the district wish to have more of a process laid out, and then allowing for the grievance process. So it goes into a lot more details in local policy, whereas legal just gives you general information, and local gives you if this and spells everything out.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Made by Mr. Arredondo, seconded by Ms. Cantu. I think, I'm fine with the recommendations that are made. I think that they help clarify the processes. I also really appreciate Human Resources for doing a very thorough review of the issues that we'd asked them to address based on the conversation that was brought to us last month by a parent in terms of the way that disciplinary procedures are handled for various students in various situations. And it seemed to me that we are pretty solid on that, and I feel very confident in it. So thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thanks, y'all. Procurement. Mr. Sandoval, please.
So good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Cardona. The first item, as part of the 2023 bond projects, His Elementary was scheduled for the design and build of a new campus. The process involved selecting an architect or engineer to prepare the construction documents for the project. The documents were sent out for bid using a closed sealed process. This resulted in no bid offers. The district sent out a construction manager at risk, RFP MD 2024-01, and resulted in several bids. The purpose for this action item is to select a general contractor for construction of this project. I provided y'all this evening a copy of that ranking with the bidders, and then I also sent it in the executive summary that I forwarded y'all last week. So the action item is to not only approve the ranking as presented to y'all, but also delegates the superintendent the authority to get a contract done, so we can jump on this and not have to wait an additional month to start construction, start that contract negotiation. So
Make a motion that we approve the ranking and we delegate authority to negotiate a contract to the superintendent, Dr. Cordon.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Shank, seconded by Ms. Cantu. Questions? Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, President Halsey. Mr. Sandoval, can you explain, or, just explain the drop-off in score between the number one applicant and number two? What was the deciding factor there?
price was 50%. If you look at the qualification, the cost proposal was 50% of the total points offered. And the highest ranking contractor price was pretty aggressive.
So Core Construction has, in their bid, I guess, committed to coming in within the budget of what we have
Yes.
allocated.
Yes. And so the three things that we ranked them on as it relates to price was their construction fee, their pre-construction fee, and then their general conditions, which is a dollar amount. So points are awarded to each of those, and obviously Core Construction came in least expensive.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you very much. That motion carries 7-0. And next.
So the next item is with the CMAR process, and we went through this 2017, if y'all remember, for those of you that were here, we hired an auditing firm to come and audit the projects more on the financial side. So we issued an RFP for this process. We had one bidder, and that was AGCM. So we'll hire them to come in and audit the projects that have been completed. And then once we're done with the high school, the natatorium, Mendez, we'll ask them to audit those as well. So we are wrapping up, obviously, the elementary renovations that were done this summer, as well as a site package. So we'll have them start with those projects, look at the financials, and just make sure everything is legit. So this action item is to approve that ranking as well, which is, there's one.
I will say I was just at Hernandez this week, and it looks terrific, and it's so much more secure and so much better, and thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Made by Mr. Arredondo and seconded by Ms. Kane. Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Sandoval. At this point in the meeting, we're going to move into closed session as authorized by section 551.071 and 551.074 of the Texas Education Code and 551.076 of the Texas Government Code. And I would encourage the rest of y'all to go down the hall and listen to the choir concert. Yeah, she's going to come. adjourning in open session to consider items discussed in closed session. First of all, the discussion regarding the superintendent's appraisal process. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the suggested format for his appraisal for the
As
current.
discussed.
As discussed.
And I second. Oh, no, you can have.
Made by Mr. Shanks and seconded by Ms. Cantu. Any questions, conversation? All in favor, please raise your hand. The second item is to deliberate or discuss and act on the corrective action plan as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Move to approve the corrective action plan as presented. Second?
Second.
Second, made by Mr. Arredondo, seconded by Ms. Cantu. Questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries 6-0, and it is 7:57. Mr. Shanks, is there a motion?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second. Seconded by Ms. Kane. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
I'd say we are doing fantastic this year compared to previous years.